You're watching Cable 8, Greensboro Community Television.
Same music, but different scenes. Welcome to the new look Greensboro Glimpses, at least new look in the opening, same set. Always glad to have you with us on the program. On this program, we're going to be talking about an organization that you've seen the results of, no doubt, but may not have realized who's behind it. I'm talking about the East Market Street Development Corporation, and I'm very happy to have as my guest Phil Barnhill, who is the Director of Operations of East Market Street. Phil, thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to have.
You're glad to be here. Right?
I am glad to be here.
You're glad to be here, absolutely. Well, we're glad to have you. And I guess there's probably not another organization that has a name that more befits what it does, East Market Street Development. But, of course, that can mean a lot of things. So if you would, as we start, tell us a little bit about East Market Street Development Corporation, how you got started, and what you do.
Okay. The start of East Market Street Development Corporation is a little interesting path that was taken. The American Planning Association out of Washington, D.C., this was probably mid-90s, 94, 95 we're talking about, was looking for some projects across the country and some doing redevelopment work. And Greensboro as a city was chosen as a potential location for a project. And through the course of working with the city of Greensboro, North Carolina A&T, some other stakeholders in the area, began putting together committees and doing a lot of outreach work and starting to meet with folks to talk about how to revitalize and bring back the East Market Street corridor. That corridor in the early part of the 20th century was probably the epicenter for African American businesses and cultural and social life, and fell on hard times pretty much around the late 60s, early 70s. And so that area was left in a bad state. You had higher crime rates at that point. You had a lot of vacant buildings, and so the area really deteriorated. So that area was a focal point. But going back to the American Planning Association in the city of Greensboro, as a result of those meetings and looking at a strategy to kind of develop a plan to redevelop the area, one of the recommendations that came out was that an organization or an entity should be formed that would be the lead agent in implementing those recommendations. And so from that, we were birthed as an organization in 1997. So in the early stages of the organization, most of the focus was on the physical look and feel of East Market Street, changing the look, working on some tangible results. And so some of the early successes were, one, the streetscape, changing the entire look and feel of the East Market Street corridor for about a 2-mile radius of that area. And some of the things that came from that, one was narrowing the street down, because I think at the time it was either 6 or 8 lanes going each direction. And so the first thing was slowing down traffic so that folks who are driving in both directions could actually take time and actually see and take notice of the businesses that were in that area. And of course A&T University, which is right there on East Market Street as well. Because before that, it was just a thoroughfare for people getting out of town or coming into downtown, but never really stopping and taking advantage of what was right there. So the streets were narrowed down. On-street parking was made available. You had a nice median with landscaping, gave it a nice look and feel. You also had changes at the intersections, new lighting, new street signage, a number of different things, again, with that streetscape. Aside from that, we had some early success with some other physical changes where you had an old shopping center, the Cumberland Shopping Center, which was right at East Market Street and Monroe Boulevard. This shopping center was underutilized, again, had become vacant, so it was prime for criminal activity and all kinds of things like that. So being able to acquire that property, help the original owners to acquire that property, tear down that shopping center, and rebuild what's now a 30,000 square foot shopping center, the Dudley Lee Professional Center, in its place.
Yeah.
So that was a big success early on, and then certainly looking to assist with some facade improvements to a number of other properties along the corridor as well, have changed the look and feel too.
Yeah. And you started off, I believe, with a bond issue from the city of Greensboro.
Yes, I think there were 2 separate bond issues that were approved by the city of Greensboro, and those funds were put in place to not so much to cover the cost of all of the development, but certainly to provide some initial funding to assist with a number of different activities that were going on, and certainly that was the catalyst to some other development along the way. At this point, over the years, we've kind of evolved from that initial set of objectives, and now we kind of break our activities down and our focus down to 3 areas. One is community development, which gets into a number of different programs that we offer, and certainly working with neighborhoods in East Greensboro. Economic revitalization, where we still are looking at physical projects to take place, and we can talk about some of those too.
Yeah.
And the third area is minority entrepreneurship. We've had a focus on that, particularly early stage training. That has been kind of a sweet spot for us as well.
Mm-hmm. What sort of training does that involve, and how do you choose people to get into a program like that?
Well, we started the entrepreneurship program probably in 2001, right in that time period. And since 2002, we've been doing training around a particular curriculum. We call it the Real Entrepreneurship Program. REAL is an acronym for Rural Entrepreneurship Through Action Learning. And this was a copyrighted curriculum that was developed in North Carolina many years ago to assist high school students in rural areas to think more entrepreneurially. And so it's a program that's been implemented in all the community colleges in the state of North Carolina except for 2, and then a number of community-based organizations like ours. And we serve as probably the lead community-based organization in that training program. And so what we look to do with that is to work with early stage entrepreneurs and even some existing entrepreneurs to help them to develop viable business plans. And so we spread it out over a 10 to 12 week period. And we work with them breaking down that whole process into manageable pieces. We also incorporate the usage of a number of outside speakers, subject matter experts from attorneys to accountants and human resources specialists, marketing specialists, other small business owners as well, to develop this entire program that gives those folks not only the tools to develop those plans and to really vet their ideas, but certainly to add to their resources and network so that they have these other contacts that are out there. One of the things we found is that for entrepreneurs, there are a number of resources and a number of free resources in the area, but the problem is always, where do I find that entry point? What's that initial contact? And so for a number of entrepreneurs, particularly minority entrepreneurs, we tend to be that entry point. And so we're able to, again, connect them with other resources that are available. As a part of that, we serve in Greensboro's Small Business Consortium, which is a group of other, other nonprofit organizations who support small business in this area. And so we collaborate and certainly look to work to increase the entrepreneurial pool in this area. And we've had pretty good success with that. As a matter of fact, this past spring, we've had, I think, 3 of our former participants to receive some local recognition. One individual, John Parker, was featured in the Triad Business Journal with his company, which is Guy Parker's Barbecue Sauce. We had another past participant, Crystal Pass. Her business is Pass the Cakes, Please. She was featured on the Good Morning Show with Channel 2. And then we had another recent participant, Pamela Green, who's got an event planning company, and she was featured in GMA's newsletter. So we've had some good success stories out there. And again, you know, we've had folks from mom and pop type of operations to retail to a full-fledged manufacturing company as well. So we've dealt with all of them.
Now, do the people that come to you in this program, do they already have to have a business, or do you sometimes get people that say, I want to do something, but I'm not sure what? Can you help me get started? It's
a good question. We get people that usually fall into one of three buckets. One is that person who's had an idea. They've wanted to start a business, they've got an idea, don't know exactly how to go about it. So this becomes a perfectly timed program for them to get that training and to figure out and understand how to develop that business plan and to turn that into a legitimate business. Mm-hmm. The second bucket of people we have are those who have been doing something on the side. And for them, the challenge is, how do I take this side business or side passion and make this my full-time business? Mm-hmm. And then the third group, we'll have individuals who are already in business and recognize that they've got some issues. Maybe it's some things that they don't know directly, or maybe they missed when they first started the business. And so this is a time for them to go back a couple steps and to actually put a business plan in place. And so for them, this is a time to become aware of a number of things that they missed when they first started the business, maybe correct some mistakes that were made, and to develop a new strategic plan for how to move forward. Mm-hmm. So those are the three areas where people tend to fall.
Now, are you a funding organization, or do you help them get funding, or are they strictly on their own to get the financing?
We do not fund them. As a matter of fact, one of the speakers we bring in to all of our classes is a banker to talk about funding, and certainly we look to assist as far as making sure that the participants are aware of the type of funding that might be available, and to, when we can, refer them to some of those resources. And the one thing we will do is assist them as far as if it's a matter of packaging or preparing for financing and what they need to do. So we'll help with that, but we do not fund directly ourselves.
Now, how long do these programs last? Once they get started in the process, how long does it take?
We work with them in class for about 12 weeks, and that class is offered in the fall and then in the spring. We do that class on the campus of North Carolina A&T. They're a partner of ours, providing us classroom space. And as a matter of fact, our next class is going to be starting August 20th. So anyone watching that's interested, we'd love to talk to you, and certainly can go to our website or give us a call to talk about that. But there's 12 weeks of classroom time, and then certainly depending on where people are at the end of that 12 weeks, where they are in the process, will kind of determine how we go about mentoring them going forward. Mm-hmm. Because some people are ready to hit the ground running, others still have a ways to go in developing or fine-tuning the idea or the business plan itself, and then others, like I said, are already in business, so now it's about making some strategic moves to move that business forward.
Now, what's the cost of these programs for these people?
The class costs $100. Which is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, very.
And certainly, if you're an entrepreneur, this is a $100 investment in your own business. And I joke with our participants. I tell them the first night, and I tell them that my objective is for you to feel like you've gotten your money's worth by the second night. Mm-hmm. And so everything after that becomes a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, some people may see this program after August 20. You say you run these in the fall and the spring, so when will the next one be after this fall?
After the fall class, our next class will start in January. And so that's, we pair them up with the college semester term, so we start in January for that springtime.
So they just need to get in touch with you and get signed up and get involved in the program.